Hello. Should I start? I think maybe people are still coming in, but we will have a few minutes to warm up. We won't go into Gemma directly, so for anyone who can be late, they should be able to catch up. Nice to meet everyone. My name is Teresa. I work for JP Morgan. I'm a software engineer. I've been working as a software engineer for many years, but mostly in front-end, and mostly, again, in fintech industry. I worked for different banks in the past. So if you have questions regarding fintech, I'm also happy to answer as well. But today we'll talk about Gemma. Anyone used Gemma already or explored it? Yes. 2, 3. OK, great. Yeah, welcome to the conference. I hope you all had a good time. It was a wonderful event yesterday, and hope you enjoy your lunch. Everyone feels sleepy after lunch? Anyone feel sleepy? No? Great. This is actually my third NDC event. I've been to the one in London and Oslo, but this is my first time actually visiting the city of Copenhagen as well. Anyone here are local from the city, from Copenhagen? Wow, half. Great. During lunch, I've been talking to people, and I got recommended to visit the Copenhagen, the ski grass. Yeah, it's worth to go. I think I'm going, and I hope I won't break my legs. So, OK, we're going to talk about Google Gemma. You probably heard Google Gemini a bit more than Google Gemma. This is something new Google released after they released Gemini, and I'm not going to go into very detail of how they writing the code of all the algorithm behind the AI and the Gen AI. I'm going to talk more about Gemma and how, for my own experience as a front-end engineer. Hello, it's OK, we just started. How we can actually, in my own experience, how we can use this tool to build a better product. And if you have any questions in this session, feel free to ask me, right? We can discuss, or you can, we will definitely have time in the end to answer all your questions. We will have a few different sessions. Let's start with Gemma. I know some of you have used Gemma already. For those who haven't used it or hasn't explored it, right, I will start a bit of like a brief. Again, because we talk about Gemma, and the Gemma is more of a Google product, so I will more focus of AI, but oriented in a Google product. How is Google built their AI? What is their history, right? So this all started like roughly 10 years ago when they have this Go campaign, and through the year, Google has released many AI and large language product. And again, as Google, they change the product name very often. So you might hear like different type of product. But as of today, like 2024, actually 2023, they released these two something that they very focused on for the Gen AI industry, which is Gemini and Gemma, right? Although they still have lots of other tools like Palm and still other things behind all this work, you can see the revolution of how they came as today into the world of AI. So what do you use to run your AI model? CPU, GPU, probably those are the most popular tools, right, hardwares to use. Graphic processing unit by Google. But actually, you can use your mobile as well, surprisingly, but feel free to try. You can run models, right, but I don't know how fast it will support you to train your model. There is also Edge TPU and, again, Raspberry Pi. So all those are hardwares available for you to use to run your AI models, right? It's not just only the CPU, GPU, but of course, they're the most common, the most powerful ones. And if we talk about AI, Gen AI, there's like one of these areas, right, we couldn't actually avoid or skip, right, transformers. And this is something actually Google designed, develop by a very small internal team. a few years ago. So initially, transformers isn't actually called transformers. It's called a self-attention, and there's actually a very good article about self-attention is what you need. It's actually self-attention is all you need. Attention is all you need. And later on, they changed the name from attention to transformers because it's a transformer. And on high-level view, transformers contains two parts: the encoder to understand the input sequence, and decoder to learn how to decide, how to make decisions. And let's say if we want to use, like, for example, language translate, right, as example, we will break this long sentence into token, and let's say each token is a part of this word. And with word prediction, right, what we do is we find the most likely the next word. And this diagram shows you roughly how transformer works, but here's a bit small example. Before Google actually design and create attention and transformers, the issue they're facing with large language model, especially in translation, is like how to translate language from one to another. Because most language, right, like French, Mandarin, English, right, most language, you can't really convert them word by word. Some words doesn't exist in different language, and the combination of the words are different. And this is something they found is very challenging, and they have to solve this problem. They are now aware of how important transformers will become of what they are today to support large language model. But back then, they just want to solve the issue with language translate. So let's say like a simple example. We want to translate this sentence, building AI in front-end projects, which is what we're going to discuss a bit more later today. On a high level, this whole sentence is breaking down into smaller tokens, like building AI in front-end projects. The process looks like this, right? They will first use lowercase for each of the words, which is easier for the machine to understand. And they will keep the word in its root form, like, for example, building to build, right? Remove all the grammar in the language. It's not just English, right? All the grammar requirements from that language to make it as simple as possible. And then the third step is to remove low information word like the, in. Those words are important, but give you low information. And they normalize, transform the words to a standard form, like, for example, laugh out loud, dev to developer, FE means front-end, right? So they have to work out those short or some of the special characters to transfer it back to its standard form. Following this process, again, the algorithm behind it must be very complicated. But following this process, in the end, they're able to transfer language from one to another. So before we dive into Gemma, because Gemma is a new product, and a few of you here tried it. Do you know Gemini or tried Gemini? Yes? 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 So I found the AI expert here. So some people get confused about Gemini and Gemma. I talked to a few of engineers in my team, and they were asking, like, so Google always release new product, right? They just had the Gemini, and then they have Gemma. I'm very confused. So before we go into Gemma, let's quickly look at what is Gemini, because this is one of their biggest announcement, right? Release of their product, and it's probably something they mention literally everywhere, right? In Google I/O and in lots of other conferences. So, if you know ChatGPT, right? OpenAI. So think about Gemini is similar-ish product with different platforms, right? It does pretty much same functions, but has its own advantage. Come with its own disadvantage as well. It's a family of large language models. Hello? It has different flavor and variant, right? So now Gemini released 1.5. It has Flash version, which is which focus on speed and efficiency. It's more lightweighted. And you have Gemini Pro, which understand like a long context, right? For example, you can with Gemini 1.5 Pro, which available in API and from web browser, you can actually upload the entire code of your project. 1 hour long video or 11 hours audio, if I'm not wrong on the data, but really, really big data, you can upload to Gemini. And Gemini will understand, analyze this video and your audio, or even a very long PDF document, and make a summary of your content for you. So it's able to understand all this large, long context with up to certain amount of tokens. And again, it's multimodal, means you can actually upload. So for example, when you ask a question, you can ask this question by text, together with an image, together with audio, together with a video. And you can combine all this into one question to get your response. That's what multimodal means. Again, right, so Gemini as a product, it's available through API, or as you can use it as a product from your own browser or as an app. So with API, you can get yourself a token, and then you have access to all the Gemini models, and they're not free. You can try them. You can get free credit, but Gemini, you have to pay for what you use as for API. And here are a few different flavors you can try. You can have the something quite efficient but small. You can try with Pro or Ultra, which is for large, complex, and more complicated tasks. Right? There's a page you can go to access this model. Or if you want to explore Gemini, but you don't want to use them in your product just yet, you can export it, right? You can try Gemini already in lots of Google products. For example, AI Overview. Last year in a Google I/O, this year, it was announced, but it was only available in the US or in a certain selected countries. And they made AI Overview available in Europe and in many other countries now. So now I think once you use Google search right, on Google, it also combined with the power of AI. They didn't actually announce if this one is a combination of their system with RAG. I don't know, not officially, but it probably does, right? So you search, it's not just searching through a large database, but it also combined with the power of AI. You can find your answers in a more specific way. So for example, instead of finding some yoga studio near me, you can find the best yoga studio in London and show me details and what they offer. So you will have answer from all this bit more complicated question now. So you can see the evolving of Gemini from text-based to what we have today. So we have like more of like an agent-based AI, understand what you need instead of you making requests step by step. And also it's available in message and chat as well. I use it quite often with Gemini to rewrite some of the paragraph or emails I want to write to make my grammar sound more professional in a way. So we talked about Gemini, and it's very powerful, and it's available through product, through API. But one of the, I would say, disadvantage, right? It's not really disadvantage, but probably something that Gemini doesn't provide is the power of own this model and make it private. The thing with, for example, enterprise, right? Like some company, large banking industry and big companies, is that I want to try this new tool, but regulations, security, think about data, right? All this is preventing me from trying out those tools because I don't know where my data is going to go. Is my data safe? Am I trading someone else's model? How do I make sure I have this model for my own? So Gemma is more like a branch of Gemini, something lighter, smaller, but you can download Gemma model. You don't have to use Gemini's API. Once you have this model, you can download it and run it on your device. And you kind of know where data goes and where data comes from. It's more, if we talk about cloud, it's more like you own your private cloud in-house. This word Gemma is inspired by Gemini. It's a Latin name, means precious stone. It's open model. And again, this word of open model came from Google. So when they decide to make Gemma release, which was they released in London, they couldn't think a best word to describe this product. The reason is, right, we have open source, we have lots of open tools, but the code behind Gemma is not open. You actually don't know how Gemma is created. So it's not really open source. Then they decide to use the word open model because everything within the word of Gemma are open, free to use. You got free access. This is different from Gemini. You can use them for free for your development and for commercial as well. You can also modify it, tune it, retrain it. So you can basically have this model as if it's your model instead of training everything from scratch, right? We don't have this much of big data. If, like, for example, I'm a startup. And the model you can find from the Gemma platform are pre-trained, come with different version and different size, depends on what you need. They can run on laptop, desktop, and IoT devices. And it's built with responsible AI, of course. So this is something I think I didn't get answer from. I went to the Google I/O. In my opinion, Gemma is single model. That means it only accepts text and return you with text-based. But from the Google I/O, I think one of the things they said is Gemma now have different flavor again. And one of the flavor of Gemma allows you to add either video or image. So in a way, Gemma is kind of multimodal, but not a true multimodal just yet. We will verify it. So how do you use Gemma and how am I doing with time? I think it's great. Right. Let's think about how the places, right, where we can use Gemma with, right? You might have more examples than the one putting here. Of course, content creation, communication, you can use to generate text, make a chatbot. And this time when you create a chatbot, you don't have to rent someone else's API, but you can own your model and run it in your server. Make some conversational AI, make it to summarize text. In research, education, and explore some knowledge, right? And if you can think of a better example to use Gemma, feel free to let me know after this talk. We can discuss it, right? Just give me some ideas. Okay, so Gemma is lighter, and you can own it, right? The way that Google defined Gemma is that it's not really a large language model, but it's SM. It's actually a small language model. It means it's more efficient, requires less computing power, and it runs faster. And it's more cost effectiveness. It's cheaper to train compared to large language model. So for example, if you make some small changes to the Gemma, to a Gemma model, twist a little bit and add a bit more token to it and train it, the training process takes less than an hour. Something that you wouldn't be able to do, right, for large language model, which some of them takes days. And you can actually fine-tune it for something very specific task of what your product requires. And it offers a quicker dev cycles. And again, one of the biggest selling point for Gemma is that you have a full ownership of this model. It can be downloaded, you can train it, and you can just own it, right? So you know where your data are, and it's basically secure and safe. Because one of the things when I face in discussing, for example, with my product owner, is are we using AI yet? And the feedback I get from them is always like about where the data goes. So a little bit of comparison. So I need some water. I've been talking for 20 minutes. Okay. Just a little bit of comparison. In terms of the model, Gemma is lightweighted. It's trained on 6 trillion tokens. And compared with Gemini, Gemini is massive, and we actually don't know as of today. With the Gemini 1.5 Pro, we don't actually know how many tokens it's trained on. Google doesn't say it, maybe for environmental concern, because it takes a lot of batteries power to train those models. I'm joking. I don't work for Google, I don't speak for them. Gemma is text-based, and you can use it as add-on to your product. It's downloadable, it's private, and you can download it from Hugging Face and from Kaggle. Probably if you tried Gemini or some other OpenAI tool, you should be familiar with Hugging Face and Kaggle. If not, I will talk a bit more about these tools later. And Gemini is more of multi-model. It understands text, video, audio. It provides you basically end-to-end solution. So if you're working on something like very complicated, large scale, you might think Gemini give you more flexibility. So you don't have to use Gemma version 1 compared with Gemma something else, right? You can have Gemini for everything you need. But Gemma is free, and you don't need a very powerful machine to run it. You can just download it and through to your server and use it as a backend service. Gemini is free to try. It does require a bit more resource, but you don't have to train Gemini yourself. It's pay-as-you-go based, so you pay for what you use. Okay, so we talk a bit on the high level of what is Gemma comparing to what is Gemini. Let's talk a bit more of how do we use Gemma. So, with the Gemma version 2 release, Gemma is not just Gemma. It has different names now. It has the code Gemma, recurrent, and Pali. So they do different things, and some of them now interact with image. Again, those are just Gemma with more specific trained for different tasks. Doesn't mean you can use the base model of Gemma, right? The base model is Gemma is always the most popular one. But if you have different tasks, right? So for example, if you're company building your own IDE solution, you might want to add code Gemma to your own IDE to make it smarter for lots of dev requirement tasks. If you are thinking of where can I use it, how do I use it, right? The most popular tool as of today is Kaggle and Hugging Face. Kaggle is developed by Google for community, free to use for the platform. Hugging Face, again, same, but it's individual. It's not from Google, but they do similar things. You can find your model from those platforms and download it. And I think you can also now download and try with Gemma from Google AI Studio as well. Let's take a Kaggle as example, right? How do we set up Gemma if I want to give it a try today? Go to Kaggle website, log in, right? You can get access through Kaggle or Hugging Face. This is an example of how the Kaggle looks like. Select which runtime you want. You need to provide your own API key. You have your username and your key, and then you can download the model. The model is roughly in a gig, 4 gig-ish, in terms of the size, depends on how large you want this model to be. So to be honest, this is quite small actually, in terms of the size. You can download it, or you can try it on the platform directly. Say now you want to set up Gemma in your product, and there's lots of language you can choose, right? JavaScript, Python, Go, or even Bash. So you can interact Gemma with giving your key and a username, and install the dependency, select the backend, and import the package, and load your model. Very simple and straightforward process. As my background as a front-end developer, I often feel the way that we can interact with Gemma, even Gemini, through those platforms is not much difference from how we actually interact from a backend API service. That traditionally how we build our product, right? You have cloud, backend, and the front-end. So pretty much the same. We need to provide our API key, and then start using this model straight away. And now, how do I bring Gemma in my front-end project, right? So I get this key set, I set up all the environment configurations, and in my front-end project, right, it can be a web, mobile app, or a desktop application. I just need to initiate the model and create a function, for example, send some message, right, creating a chat model. And then I can start using from the available APIs to interact with this model. So if you can think about all this process, it's not complicated. It's very similar than how we would use a backend service, right? The API keys, the API service is ready. I just have to interact with this service. Again, if you want to try out, I think this is available recently. If you go to Google AI Studio, it's a website, and that's how the page looks like. I like a light mode, but by default, it's dark mode, and something that most engineers use nowadays, that is something you're more familiar with. And you can also interact with try Gemma. Instead of using the code, you can try it out with this UI tool. You don't have to do any code. You just have to click and drop and click. And you can try out the model here. Again, this platform allows you to do many other things, right? You can get the API key here, try the prompt, see how the model reacts, change the Gemma model from version 7b to 2b, for example, and choose the language you want. And when you're happy with the response you get, you can even cheat and get the code straight away from this platform. And that's the code you can actually use in your project with your own API key to interact with Gemma. So it's very efficient and very quick. So we talked about what is Gemma and the process of how we can use Gemma in our project. Now the question is, right, I'm happy with Gemma. It does what I need. But I do have this product, again, where we're all building product and to help our users, right? I have this product, has something a bit more specific that I don't find this right answer from Gemma. Maybe I'm a medical company, maybe I provide health care, maybe education, right? Or maybe even a taxi company, right? Or delivery company. I found that Gemma is very common. It's helpful, but too common. I want something more specific. How do I do, right? So Gemma is free, and you can download it, and you can train it on top of the existing built solution. So you don't have to get the data yourself, which is a massive data, and tune it again. So you can actually train Gemma on top of what you have. There are different ways you can tune Gemma. I'm showing you the one that you can do from the UI. You can also tune it by curl, by bash, by API. The goal here is to fine-tune it to improve performance of the model for some very specific task. You can tune this model, right, just to try it. You can give it like 20 more examples. Example is something like maybe a sentence or a question, right, like maybe a picture of some flower that you want to train. You can give as little as 20 examples, but the result is not going to be very satisfying. You can target between 100 to 500 examples. And you can parse its data through API or just upload them directly from Google AI Studio. So if you are not coming from the AI background, here are some of the keywords that I'm going to explain a bit in case like you found that these are confusing. And so when you talk about AI models, right, especially when you want to train AI models, those other words probably keep coming up, right? The token count is very easy to understand. It's how much the context window are, how big you want this model to be, right, to give you the response. Temperature it decides how creative, how determinative your response would be. And you can adjust this index of temperature. So if you want something very predictive and something more generic, that you want to have a lower temperature. But if you want to write something very creative, write a story, create a piece of painting, some nice image, something very, something you actually don't have any expected outcome, but you want the AI model to show you something creative, and you don't mind get something very surprising. Then you want to use high temperature, so you can balance this when you work with your model. Few bit more. Stop sequence is where you want your model to stop during the training process. And top P and K are the, right, don't worry if you don't get everything, I don't get everything as well. Just in case if you are curious about what they are. Those are the sampling methods to control how random, how diverse your tags are. And epoch represents, like if you say epoch 1 or epoch 5, it means how many iteration process you want your model to train. Maybe with 1 iteration, maybe 5 or 10. Higher of this number requires longer to train your model. Lower means less time, but the more of epoch you have, that means more accuracy you're going to receive from your model. Again, decide what the best balance. I think the recommendation here is between 4 or 5-ish. And you have the base learning rate as well, which is another variable you want to try when you train your model. And the batch size, it decides the number of examples processed in each of the training process. So some of the recommendation, those are the 3 values you will interact, and maybe you want to twist during the training process. So some of them are default, and you can again adjust them. Those default values are something like more of recommended, but you can change it. Right. So what's the learning rate? Learning rate, right? It's basically the initial learning rate multiplied by the percentage you provide. And again, epoch is basically depends on how much accuracy, what the performance you want from your model. So we almost go to the end of tuning. The process of tuning Gemma model is you choose first your base model, something that you want. For example, a larger one, 7B, or the code Gemma that you want to do with coding. You choose your base model, which is pre-trained, and you prepare your data set here, right? So something like your product provides. Maybe, for example, if you're a healthcare company and you have your customer data and you want to provide them something more specific in terms of what they get in their service, those are the data you need to be responsible to collect. You need to clean them, prepare it, and then those are data you want to provide to to train, and you are responsible to validate and test your data. That's why data scientist is actually a very big project. In terms of the data preparing process, it's very, very long, and the feature engineering as well. So hopefully, this is why Gemma is quite useful for startups, that we don't have all this knowledge and the techniques in-house. So you might not need to train your Gemma model in-house and decide those hyperparameters. And you can start training your model. As I was saying, you can try the training process on the UI. If you provide roughly 20 examples, right? Let's say I have an image recognition model. I want to add 20 more image of myself. So I hope this model would answer questions when someone asks who she is. And my name should pop up, right? I'm a selfish person. I want my name to pop up. I give 20 image of my own, and this model will recognize me. So this training process should take maybe 30 minutes-ish. Right, so last bit, we're done with all this technical problem. Let's talk about on the product side of how Gemma would impact our future product. How can Gemma improve it, reshaping it, and how do we use Gemma? We can tune Gemma to do some specific tasks to meet our own requirements, pair programming, code completion. We can use Gemma to make a summary of documents, to create a recipe of some food image, to do some recognition. And say, if I have my own restaurant, I can also bring this iPad, right, to my customer, ask what they want to order, and immediately I can use Gemma to make suggestions of what wine they can use to pair with their food. That would be very smart. I would love that restaurant. It's good, right, Gemma? But it also has own limitations, the same as any other language model, right? It's maybe biased. It doesn't solve all the complicated problem you want to solve. It's a black box. It's open model, but you don't see how Gemma is made. You don't see the code behind the scene. It's a black box. And it's some common sense, right? They might lack of ability to provide some common sense answers, right, in certain situations. So those are not just Gemma's issue, right? It's something we need to deal with as engineer, and something we need to think about to solve when we use AI, large language model, in our product. This diagram, I didn't draw it. I took it from Google I/O. The engineer gave a very good talk about Gemma, and this is how they predict, with the power of AI, how they would shaping the future of development life cycle. The one on the top that you see in the color blue is something we do daily, right? We do research, we design, we test, we build, integrate, and then we run the whole cycle again. We deploy, we review, and we maintain. Now, combine the power of AI into this life cycle, the process might change, right? It's not like you have to maintain all these steps, right? But we need to think about AI as a different life cycle and how do we combine it in our current dev cycle. Because with AI, you do require extra resource and the time to get data, to select your model, to experiment, to design your model, train it, and evaluate this model. And after all this, you can actually bring the model to your product into the build, test, integration process. And you need to think about the test as well. How do you get feedback? How do you observe this model? And how do you improve your product after you get this reservation and your feedback? So overall, as a summary, how does AI or Gemma or any of these large language model will impact our project, right? Because last year, when it's like the blooming season of GenAI, most of the engineers, especially the front-end engineers, are worried about, am I losing my job, right? So we're not losing our job. We just combine different tools to make our job better. But in terms of to business, right, the business model might change because imagine I want to build a product as of today. I will have my own backend team. My backend team have to borrow someone else's API to build some backend service, payment, security, account management, right? We don't build everything in-house. We borrow those API and we put everything together in our backend server and give this to the front end as API. But with AI, this business model might change because no one would have the power and the resource to build everything of a model from scratch. So we will enter a new model of renting instead of building. So we will rent API service, rent models from those upstream companies, as like if we are the downstream companies. We will rent them from the providers, and they are the one responsible to train the model and train them in the way they are responsible, and then give us the end product for us to consume. So we can take advantage of how we can scale the platform and how to make sure everything is secure. So you have now different options in terms of what model you want to use. So that's all I'm going to talk today, and thank you for your time. You can scan the QR code to connect with me on LinkedIn. Also my Twitter account, if you want to have some chat after this. I think we'll have time for questions, so if you have anything you want to bring up, or maybe you don't agree with me, happy to discuss. Yes, sorry. You can download it, and you can train it from API using your own in-house machine. And you can also train it, I believe, on the platform of Google AI Studio as well. I don't know if they will charge you to train the model, but you can download it afterwards. But yeah, definitely download it first and train it locally, because that's what Gemma is made for. Thank you. Any other questions? If not, thank you for joining me.